Hello and welcome to another Intro to Java Programming video. I want to just put one more video together here that throws everything together and gets you prepared to do your Flowers project. I hope it's going to make connections for you and fill in any gaps that might be there in your understanding. Okay, to start off, I want to talk about how you set up your Java project for the project. I know there's another video that talked about this, but I just want to string everything together into one video. So we're at this screen here to create a new project. And click on Create New Project, and when we do this, we're just choosing, make sure we choose the project SDK. Currently I have Java 10 installed on my computer. You might have 12, you might have 8, whatever it is, use that particular Java. And we're always making a Java project, not JavaFX or any of these others. Click Next. We're going to skip this because we're not working from a template. And then we get over here where we choose the project location and the project name. As you recall, you should probably have a folder where you're saving all your stuff. And the project name is always going to be the furthest right, and this is going to be the directory where that's going to be stored. So we can browse for a folder where we want to put it. I'm just going to put it into CSI grading. That's okay. And then on the end here, we're going to make a slash and then give it a name. I'm going to call it Charlie Goral Flowers, or Fowlers in this case. Flowers. There we go. Now this is saying that it's going to go into C:users, C Goral desktop, CSI grading, Charlie Goral Flowers. So when I create this, in here in CSI grading, it should create a new project folder called Charlie Goral Flowers. Let's see if that happens. Click Finish, and it's going to say the project directory doesn't exist. Do you want to create it? Yes, I do. So I'll click OK. Now, you're going to see it created that directory right here, Charlie Goral Flowers. You can see the path for that directory is right up here in Intellij. If I expand this in Intellij, you can see it's got an ID, an SRC, and the IML. Here, if I open up Charlie Goral Flowers, it's got the idea, the SRC, and the IML. Okay, so this is just a reflection here of what's going on my actual computer. I've got my project folder started. Now here's the deal. You have to make sure you name it your name _ project name for every project. If you don't do that, I'm not going to know whose work it is that's being handed in. And first time around, I'm just going to scold you. And next time around, I probably just will take some points away. And if you do it again, not naming it correctly, I just won't grade it. So make sure you're doing this correctly. Your name _ project name when you create the project. You can't do it ex post facto. You can't do it later on. You have to do it when you create the project. You can't rename projects later on, so don't try. All right, next we're going to create our Java file. New Java class. And I'm going to call it Flowers. Click OK. And now I've got my Java class. This is where I write all my code, as you know. So now my structure is such that I've got my source, and then I've got my Java file inside of there. And because we're making a JFrame, as always, extends JFrame. And when we do this, it's going to say you can't use it until you import. From previous videos, you've seen this. So I'm going to click on that, hold Alt, and hit Enter, and I'm going to choose Import. Otherwise, I can just manually type if I want, import javax.swing all. We've talked about these import statements before. This allows me to use that software. So remember, JFrame does not exist in our vanilla Java program. We have to bring that class in so that we can actually use it. All of our JFrames need to have a main. So public static void main string args, as always. As always, our class has a definition, and the scope of that definition is from the starting brace to the closing brace. All of our code for our program has to go in between those two braces. Nothing can go outside of those braces. If it's outside of the braces, it's a syntax error and your program won't load. Our main method is where all of our launching stuff is going to go, all the stuff that sets up our file to make it work correctly. And all that code has to be in between those two braces. For now, all of the program statements that we write are always going to go into one of these blocks, either the main block or something called the paint method, paint block. So public void paint graphics G. We've seen this before. Graphics is not part of vanilla Java, so we have to import it. If you click on that graphics that's red and leave our cursor there, hold Alt and hit Enter, it's going to give us that code suggestion, and it's going to say import class. I'm going to do that. If I want to manually type it out, it's import java.awt.all. Okay? So there I have my two methods that I'm going to use for the program, and then I'm going to make another one later on. We'll take a look at something in just a bit. But public void paint, graphics G, and main. All of my code is either going to go inside of the main block or inside of the paint block, and I'll talk about what goes in the main and what goes in the paint. Let's first talk about what goes in the main. First thing that always goes in the main of all of our programs is doing something called instantiating an object of this class into its own main method. So to do that, it would be flowers, because this is the flowers class, so I'm going to make an object of type flowers. I'm going to call it frame, and as I've said before, I can call this anything I want. I just choose frame because it's going to make it easier if we always keep the same name in all of our files, just as you're learning. As you move on, you can call these things whatever you want, but for now, let's just always call it frame. Gets new flowers, and there we've done it. We've instantiated our flowers object into itself. So this is making our flowers class living and breathing and working. Next, frame dot set size. As always, we need to set the size, overall size of our project, of our JFrame. Now, for the purposes of this project, don't make these things enormous. If they're too big, I'm just not going to be able to read them on my screen. I'm kind of old, my eyes bad, and I use relatively low resolution on a very large screen. So don't make these things any higher than 800 pixels in height. Don't make them any wider than about 1,000 pixels wide. I would say for the purpose of this project, maybe go like 600 by 900 or something like that. So 900 wide by 600 high. And that will fit nicely on my screen. And when I run this, you'll see. So frame set size. Set default close operation. So frame.set default close operation, exit on close. And as you know, this kills the process when we hit the X on the frame. Frame.set visible, true. And we always want to do this last. All right, so I've set up all of the basic things that I'm going to do on every single JFrame I make. So from here on out, every time we make a JFrame, these things are always going to be present. Okay? Great. So my main block is finished for now. My paint block is going to get started. Super.paint and pass G into it. This is done to make the paint method run correctly. Now, we have our basic structure for everything we need to do for this project. You've got your class created, you've got your project created, named correctly. Now it's going to be time for you to look over those old examples that we've seen and pick out the things we need to do. You know, you need to draw some flowers using drawing rectangles, drawing ovals, drawing arcs, drawing lines, filling them if you need to, changing colors, drawing strings, setting colors on the strings. You know that you need to have an image in there, so you're going to make a load image method to load the image into memory. You're going to have an image variable. You're going to put all these things together from previous projects to make your flowers project. All right. Hopefully this gets you a good starting point so you can jump off and just dig right into the project. As far as a strategy goes, what I would do is decide piece by piece what you want to do. Maybe the first thing you do is try and get your image going and get your image drawn to the screen. That means you would want to come over to your directory here, and in the main project directory, right-click, new directory, and call it images. Maybe find an image that you want to display and download it to your computer and save it here. Or maybe take something off your computer that already exists and put it in here. Well, the image has to go in here. Then you can go and look at the drawing images file that we did before. So mine would have been in week 1. And take a look at the things that we need for that. We know that we have our load image method that we usually use. I'm just going to copy that. You know, when you're working on these projects, oftentimes you could just copy and paste and then tweak some values of things if you need them to work correctly. So I'm going to copy my load images method. I'm going to put it just down at the bottom. Notice that it is not inside the paint. It's not inside the main. All methods that you define have to be standalone. In other words, they open and close outside of other methods, and they're inside the class. So I put a comment there at the end of the class to say that's where the class ends. End load image, so you can see where that ends. End paint. So you can see that my load image starts outside of the paint, but it's inside the bounds of the class body. Okay? And then I need to tweak some things. I need to create my image variable up at the top, inside the class, but outside of the main. And then I need to find my image, put it in here, and then I'm going to change my path depending on what that image name is. And then I'm just going to make sure I call the load image method in the main, and then start doing my drawing. Okay, so you're going to look back at previous files, maybe copy and paste the things you need, or just type them by hand, and then put together your project. I hope this was useful. I hope this helped you get off on the right foot for this project. Thanks for watching.